Bing bong. I am back with another edition of the State of Bitcoin podcast, where I have Cole, the marketing and customer relations and business development guy for Coinos, which is a Bitcoin web-based wallet that will allow you to transact and send sats back and forth through Lightning. So awesome stuff. We're going to have a great conversation on development, point of sale terminals, the use cases for it, and all that kind of stuff. But first, big shout out to Pleb Lab, the sponsor. So if you haven't been down to Austin to check out Pleb Lab and you call yourself a Bitcoiner, what the hell are you doing? You got to get down there and check it out. It's the best hacker space in the business. They have a ton of shit going on at all times, where they have events, they have, hackathons, all that kind of stuff. And before BitBlock Boom, if you're going down there August 21st and 22nd, they have a startup day. So they're going to have pitches going on. They're going to have panels. I'll be moderating some panels. So come say hi to me and join the fun. So check all that out at pleblab.com. Also, if you plan on going to BitBlock Boom, be sure to use promo code GREENCANDLE. That's all one word. And you get 10% off. There you go. So I'm helping you out. I'm telling you, get down to Austin and get to BitBlock Boom. You could check out Pleb Lab. There's going to be a ton of events, ton of Bitcoiners in the Mecca of Bitcoin, Austin, Texas. All right, enough for me. Let's get Cole up here. Cole, man, how you doing today?
I'm doing it absolutely amazing. Living the Bitcoin lifestyle, hashtag Bitcoin lifestyle. It's good. It's good. Bitcoin awesome. Gives you a good life.
Yeah, amen, man. Amen. So, Cole, for those in the audience who don't know you, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of how you found Bitcoin?
Absolutely, yeah. So I started in Bitcoin in 2015. I learned about it, or I got told about it in 2013, but I didn't understand it, so I thought it was a scam. Luckily, I got into it in 2015, just as an investor, just a passive investor, buying and holding for a little bit. And then in 2017, did all right. Sold a bunch of gains, sold everything I had in 2018, almost everything, because I thought it was a scam. I thought it wasn't going to come back. And then went back in heavy in 2020, really heavy. Late 2020, early 2021, got really into mining. Did all right with that. Sold some machines for profit. That was good as well. And since then, I've just been stacking sats, dollar cost averaging like crazy, dollar cost averaging a lot this year as well. And then I met Adam at a Bitcoin event last year, and we just hit it off. We had the same kind of goal in mind. We're both equally as motivated to make Coinos a success, but not just Coinos, but we want a lot of users to understand Bitcoin and learn about the power of Bitcoin and Lightning and why it's different from these other coins, all these altcoins, right? I like talking about, I like when other people come to me and say, oh, Bitcoin's too old or this and that, but I just smash those comments down pretty fast. So me and Adam, we have the same state of mind in regards to the success of what we want Coinos to be. And I'm still mining, investing, dollar cost averaging as much as I can. Like every extra penny I have is being dollar cost average. And I can say that literally. I don't know many people that can say that literally, but for me, it kind of is. Yeah, and we just make it as easy as possible for people to use Bitcoin and Lightning and to transact with Bitcoin and Lightning.
Yeah, it's great stuff. So tell us a little bit about Coinos, man. I mean, like you told us a little bit about your journey. You kind of got into the mining space, but now you're working on the Lightning wallet side of things. So, what is Coinos? Like, what's the overall goal of your company? And yeah, I'll leave it there.
So the overall goal is to have as many businesses using our wallet to accept Bitcoin and Lightning payments. It's not just Lightning, but Lightning is preferred for high volume, high traffic places such as coffee shops, restaurants. We have all kinds of businesses like those barbershops that are using us. 160 worldwide are using us right now, more than 160. But we do still offer the on-chain Bitcoin option as well for businesses that have lower volume but like higher purchases. Like there's an exotic car rental company in Miami using us. They would have on-chain transactions more than Lightning because they have a lot of people in Miami that want to spend their Bitcoin, but they don't have enough places to spend it. So the vision of Coinos is just to have as many, we instead of having 160, we want thousands of businesses using us. The best way for us to reach that mark is by getting communities in different countries really stoked, really excited about Coinos. That's why I've been to multiple countries recently. In the past, like 6 weeks, I've been to 5 countries: El Salvador, which is Bitcoin Beach; Guatemala, Bitcoin Lake; Costa Rica, Bitcoin Jungle; Miami for the conference; Cancun. And I'm just showing the communities there, getting hooked in with the communities there, showing them Bitcoin or showing them Coinos, seeing if they like it, not trying to get them to get rid of what they currently have, but I want them to have the option of Coinos and know about it. So our short-term roadmap is that eventually we want tens of thousands of businesses using us, right? We are the cheapest and the easiest Bitcoin Lightning wallet on the market. You can create a wallet in 20 seconds or less, depending how good you are on your phone. We're going to have a competition at the Bitcoin Rodeo event coming up on July 4th and 5th in Calgary. We're going to have a competition. We're going to give away hundreds of thousands of free sats for people who can create a Coinos wallet in the fastest time possible, to make a point how easy it is. So
that's awesome stuff, man. So what has the response been from a lot of vendors? Are you generally going to, you kind of listed off like Bitcoin Beach, obviously, in some places where maybe adoption is a little bit, I guess further along than certain places. What has the response been when you kind of approach vendors? And I guess what's your strategy like when you're kind of going to them? Are you going to vendors that are already kind of accepting Bitcoin, or are you trying to onboard new vendors to accept Bitcoin completely?
That's a really good question. I would say overall, I've talked to hundreds of businesses, over 100 to 200 probably if I was to actually count. The failure rate in general, I would say, is like 95% or more, which makes sense. It's a new technology, and a lot of people don't trust Bitcoin as an idea to begin with. A big part of my success with onboarding businesses has been going to businesses that are already on the Bitcoin maps, accepting Bitcoin, but getting them to use our wallet instead. So that's been a pretty good success rate there. The success rate with that one is about maybe 10%, whereas businesses that are not accepting Bitcoin, maybe it's even less than 5%, actually. So I just go to them. I have I don't want to say the word script necessarily, but I do have some points that I do bring up consistently with different vendors, and it does get through to people. And if any business owner understands what I'm saying, they will start accepting payments. A lot of them think it's too early. They just don't believe in it as a whole. So it's like door to door. Like I approach businesses physically, and I also do cold calling. So both. Like in Vancouver, I've approached a lot of businesses. There's still many more to go, but I do a lot of cold calling as well. Yeah.
So you mentioned the points you like to hit. Well, what are they? I mean, how can other people kind of do it and like help you out? Is there a way, like maybe a grassroots movement that people could help bring vendors onto Coinos?
Yeah. So the biggest points that I bring up is that we give their business free marketing. So any business that is using Coinos to accept Bitcoin Lightning payments, we post their business on the social medias, on all our social media profiles, and we push it in the Telegram groups that we're in as well. And in addition to that, we posted on about 7 websites. It was like 9 websites, but we got it down to like 7 websites where there's Google Maps style websites, but for Bitcoin businesses. So we post them on all those websites and promote it heavy in those ways. So the free marketing is a big one, and we let the business owners know that they're going to get more, most likely, can't guarantee anything, but they'll most likely get more clientele, more business, more customers, because they'll have an additional customer base on top of what they already have. And it's free. We don't charge any maintenance fees or anything. And Bitcoin transactions are decentralized, instant. It's a great investment. It will most likely perform, or it might perform better than every other asset class. I tell myself that it does perform better than every other asset class. I don't know if I want to say that because it's like financial advice, but nothing I say is financial advice, obviously, even though if you listen to me, you might make 10 times more money than a traditional financial advisor, but it's still not financial advice, right? So so we think that it's the best investment anyone can make. I think it might be anyways.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, but I think, a lot of the sell maybe initially might be to tell them that they can accept dollars or, whatever their local currency is. So, have you kind of, I guess, found more success when you kind of describe, I guess, more so about the lightning approach where it's like, hey, like, we have this, essentially this way for you to accept money and, you don't even really bring up Bitcoin, or do you bring up Bitcoin initially and kind of go from there?
Well, so the opening line usually is depending where I am. Let's so in Yale Town or in Vancouver, I'll say, "Hi, how are you doing? Is the manager available?" And then they'll say, "Oh, he is," or let's say he is available. Can I ask what it's about? I said, "Yeah, I just want to talk with him about a payment option." So I'll keep it that simple. And then, or if they ask, "Oh, what do you mean by that?" Then I'll say, I work with a POS company that is cheaper than, well, no, not POS company, but I say I work with a POS system that is it's a very good deal. Like those kinds of things. And then they go get their manager. I talk to the manager. I tell the manager about the other businesses that are using us within the area. That's very valuable because once you have like 3 businesses in the same area, it's easier to convince the other ones in that area because they feel better about other people around them using it. And if the manager's not available, then obviously talking to the owner is the best thing. But if the manager's not available, I will send them a very professional email telling them that I stopped by their location, send them follow-up emails here and there, like 1 a month or whatever, depending on the situation. If I have a really good chat with the manager, I'll send them more follow-ups than someone I didn't actually talk to. Yeah, those are some other strategies I have.
Yeah, and that's great stuff. So, I mean, but overall, it seems like it's kind of I don't know, like a mixed bag of approach of like, you just kind of getting to know the situation. So, when you go and travel to these places, do you kind of tend to, gravitate towards certain businesses, maybe like, I don't know, a restaurant, for example, or you just kind of go and hang out in a coffee shop and you just go, hey, this is your routine, right? Every day you're in Miami, for example, you go to this coffee shop, you ask to pay in Bitcoin until finally they're like, all right, dude, enough of that. I'll let you do it because we come here every day. So what's kind of the approach that way? Because, I mean, you're doing a lot of traveling, man. We met in Toronto at the Canadian Bitcoin conference. You're going over to Vancouver. You've been all over the place. So, yeah, what's the, I guess, overall kind of strategy for getting to know the businesses when you're traveling to these places?
Yeah, the best strategy is for going to these other countries is getting hooked in with the locals, especially the Bitcoiners of the area. So I did that with Guatemala, I did that with El Salvador, Costa Rica a little bit as well. And that's the best way for them to introduce me to their friends and their friends that like own businesses, and not just them, but other users as well, other people that would be users of Bitcoin. And that's extremely effective. I'm in contact with every one of them as of right now. I actually have meetings with them booked soon as well. And the first point you mentioned is also very effective, though. Going to a coffee shop consistently, asking if they accept Bitcoin. And if you're a regular there, then it will have more impact to the owner if you suggest something such as, have you thought about accepting Bitcoin? That strategy works very well. I haven't been a regular at all the places that have come on board with us. So it mostly, in regards to the amount of businesses that are using us, the majority of that has been cold calling, having other communities promote Coinos on their own as well. Like in Brazil, they're promoting Coinos to all of their friends within the towns that they are living in, like Rolante, Rio Grande do Sul in Brazil. So that's an example for having explosive growth, I call it, is having other communities motivated enough to promote it to all of their friends and within their community. Getting hooked in with the locals, getting hooked in with the Bitcoiners of the area, definitely. And also door knocking with the businesses in the busy areas as well.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, right? I mean, you got to kind of ingrain yourself into, you got to get a source of trust, right? I mean, obviously Bitcoin's like the mantra is don't trust, verify, but there's also a a sense of trust that you need to have in order to orange pill somebody, especially a business owner, because business owners probably get approached with, crazy things all the time. And so because of that, they're probably skeptical at first, unless they're a Bitcoiner, of course, or they have, the Bitcoin meetups going to these places or other things like that. So, it sounds like a great strategy to kind of go through there and kind of, I guess, ingrain yourself almost in the community too. And then, down the line, hey, Bitcoin meetup in wherever, Bitcoin Beach, Bitcoin Lake, they're going to this business. When they think about onboarding this business, they're going to think of Coinos first, right? And instead of some other guy. So, overall, it just seems like a sound strategy in my eyes. So, I applaud you for doing that. But, what, I got a question, because in the US, it seems like people are very, very cautious or almost stringent with spending their Bitcoin. They don't want to give it up, basically, or anything like that. So, obviously Strike has the ability, and some of these others, where you could, have fiat in your wallet and it sends over the Lightning Network. Now, is that possible with Coinos, or is it more so just kind of, I guess, paying with Bitcoin, and then the other side can, receive Bitcoin, or it can receive fiat? Like, what's the back end look like?
That's a really good question. We are looking to integrate fiat options within Coinos soon. We are talking to the right people for it. We're talking to KYC, multiple KYC companies. We're talking to liquidity providers. We are talking to the right people. We know the right people. We're grateful for all of that. And so the answer is yes, we can integrate it. The reason we don't right now, we like the fact that we're non-KYC. So as soon as we integrate the fiat, we're going to have to be KYC. The short-term roadmap that we have is we're going to have maybe KYC as an option. We most likely will not make it mandatory, because a lot of the community, including myself, we like non-KYC. So that's what comes with us. Like, you look at Bitcoin Beach Wallet, and Bitcoin Beach Wallet is not very decentralized. It's actually centralized. Because it's linked, at least the locals were telling me, it's linked to the government Chivo wallet. And this is what some of the locals were telling me as a concern. These are like the Bitcoiner locals that have grew up in El Salvador. They're the ones telling me that they don't really like Bitcoin Beach Wallet because of those reasons. Bitcoin Beach Wallet has some good ideas, though. Like, stable sats is an interesting idea, but stable sats is not actually Bitcoin, right? Stable sats can have issues. Like, when they open up, anyways, that's a different conversation. But we at Coinos, we prefer the Bitcoin or Lightning only stance, non-KYC for now. But the reason why we're thinking of integrating fiat systems eventually, a fiat option eventually, is to increase adoption.
Yeah, and I mean, I get it too, right? I mean, the fiat and kind of that aspect of things requires KYC. I mean, that's just kind of plain and simple. So it's a give and take with what you want, right? I mean, and I think that providing that option for the consumer probably, in my eyes, is like always the best course of action, is just giving the consumer options, and then they'll go to wherever they prefer. So, I mean, overall, I mean, if you guys can do that successfully, I mean, we're seeing it right now, right? Some issues with some custodians right now, especially in the United States, right? I mean, with Prime Trust, we both had Swan and Strike, two, great Bitcoin companies, but they had to, they had to custodian some Bitcoin with Prime Trust. They, coincidentally got out a couple months ago, but now Prime Trust is falling apart. So it seems like, partnering with some of these banks in some of these situations, it might be difficult, and, it leaves you up for some more, I guess, variable kind of potential hazards or things like that. So is this something you guys are keeping a pretty close eye on when you're looking at, maybe deciding on to integrate fiat or not? Is, kind of what's going on there, and like, potentially the I guess the counterparty risk that you would run into when partnering with some sort of bank somewhere?
Yeah, so we are, it is very difficult to have a bank partner with you as a Bitcoin company or any crypto company. But we're not actually worried about that, though, because we are already talking to the right KYC and liquidity providing people. So we were a little bit concerned about that before, but we're not as concerned about it now. But you're absolutely right. We are keeping a close eye on it. We have to. I keep a very close eye on the macroeconomics. I teach people about macroeconomics all the time. I don't have a paid course or anything like that, but I know a lot about the macroeconomics. Well, I mean, I know a little bit about the macroeconomics, enough. I don't want to put myself too high up, right? I know some macro experts that know a ton. I know a little bit. I know enough to keep people safe, in my opinion, anyways. So we do follow the macro intently, the U.S. and the Canadian. The U.S. news we follow a lot as well because that drives the world, at least right now. It might not in the near future, but it does right now.
Yeah. I mean, we never know, right? I mean, it's the macro it's always interesting. There's always something going on, especially in the U.S., right? I mean, with the hiking of interest rates now, we have the Fed chair saying there's maybe room for multiple global reserve currencies. We got, them saying that inflation's transitory. Well, inflation's now sticky. And, I mean, it's just it's a show at this point, right? I mean, it's hard not to tune in, especially in the Bitcoin space. But, it does bring volatility when it kind of comes to outside fiat currencies, outside of the dollar, in a sense, right? I mean, the dollar has the buying power and kind of has the strength. So, because of that, do you think that it kind of, I guess, it resonates with, when you're traveling to some of these other countries, maybe like Mexico or somewhere else, like you're seeing that, I mean, I was just in Toronto, and from my understanding, it seems like, Canadians are used to the dollar being a little bit less than the loonie or the toonie or whatever you guys got up there. But it seemed like, the dollar's strength there, essentially it was stronger than it normally was. So, are you kind of seeing that maybe it's an easier conversation to onboard, now than it was maybe a couple years ago because of, the strength of the dollar and kind of what's going on in the overall macro?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's way easier now than it was 2 years ago. Absolutely. Because with all these bank failures happening, that's good news for Bitcoin. Bitcoin goes up every time. Like, this is just based on the history that everybody has seen, at least I've seen. When bank failures happen, Bitcoin goes up. Because a lot of these multi-billionaires, a lot of the investors, and when they get bailed out, they're starting to understand that it's safer to have money in Bitcoin than a bank. So, what makes the price of Bitcoin go up? It's people buying it, like any asset, gold, stocks, anything, right? And so the reason why Bitcoin goes up, like I mentioned, people are starting to be awake to the value of it. It's the only decentralized currency on the planet that I know of, really. I mean, cash is actually a little bit decentralized, depending how you look at it with what time frame. But cash is going down in value only, so it's centralized in that way. But in regards to tracking your money, cash is decentralized in a way. But Bitcoin's 10 times better because Bitcoin's price is not manipulated in the same way as cash is, right? So way easier to onboard people now with Bitcoin than before because of the bank failures. So I have multiple graphs to show people the size of the bank failures and what that's doing to the market, like macro graphs. And the macro graphs I have are very easy to understand. They don't take a professional to interpret it. So those are the kinds of graphs that I show people, like in my group chat. So I have my own group chat, right? So I show people tons of macro stuff with easy to understand.
Yeah. I mean, and the macro, I don't think it's really hard to understand, right? When you show them hey, over 40% of the current money supply of dollars, is printed in the past 2-3 years. So, I mean, to me, it's just kind of obvious, right? It's like people are wondering, hey, why is all this inflation going on, not only just in the United States, but globally? It's like, well, if you have the global reserve currency and you just dump a bunch of, money into it, and then you shut off money for months at a time, it just makes sense. I mean, I don't it doesn't take a genius to kind of, think and think about that. But it seems like, when people think about the macro, they think it's a lot more complicated than it really is, right? I mean, simple, supply demand. It's really nothing too crazy, right? So, but it is also a system that everybody's been kind of raised on, right? At this point, like business owners have kind of gone through it, right? I mean, you know what, 1971 was like 52 years ago at this point now. So, I mean, that's when we all went off the gold standard. And, you know, many people who are running businesses, were running businesses then, are either not alive now or they're retired and kind of getting out of that. So most people have been raised in this fiat system. So when you kind of describe, you know, the Bitcoin related system to people, kind of the hard money principles, what is something that I guess resonates with them? Is it something where, you know, maybe it's not the government's control, or is it more so like, you know, maybe the hard money and like the 21 million cap that kind of more resonates?
So what resonates with them is the 21 million cap is a very big point. That's right. Also, the fact that no one controls Bitcoin, like no one, there's no CEO. And I always let people know that the way code works, at least with the Bitcoin code, is that it's immutable. It can't be changed. That also, and when I tell people in point form, without going into too much detail, that the code of Bitcoin is very safe. You can't have I mean, you can't. Nothing's impossible, right? Nothing's impossible, but it, you know, common sense pretty much says that Bitcoin's code itself cannot really be hacked, and it's like that now, partly because the hash rate of Bitcoin is at all-time highs. It's hitting new all-time highs this past couple of years, multiple, like making new highs. And some people say, "Oh, hash rate doesn't make it safer." Actually, it does. It does make it safer. And one of the big reasons it makes it safer is because the higher your hash rate is for a blockchain, the harder it is to get 51% attacked. In simple words, get hacked, right? In that way. So I don't go into too much detail, but I tell people the Bitcoin code is virtually unhackable. And there's no CEO like all these other coins and companies with teams of whales that manipulate the price and stuff, like Ethereum. The 21 million. It's the price appreciation over the past 10 years has outperformed every asset class in the history of mankind. That's a good one. I like to compare Bitcoin to real estate, right? Like people think real estate is the best investment ever. I mean, just look at the numbers, right? Or gold. Like when I compare Bitcoin to gold, even if the person I'm talking to is not a gold investor, the points that I bring up are still, it resonates with them 100%. You can read the body language of people too. And yeah, like it resonates when you compare Bitcoin to real estate and gold, which are well-known investments with everybody. So when you tie in Bitcoin to well-known information and investments that people know, that's what gets them to like turn their head and be like, oh, wow. Oh, huh. Actually, one of the biggest points is comparing Bitcoin's growth to the $1 trillion market cap compared to the FANG stocks, Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, and Google. Bitcoin beat every single one of them. It made it to $1 trillion market cap faster than every one of those. That's a big point that makes people's heads turn as well.
Yeah, I mean, it makes a lot of sense, right? I mean, people just kind of see the money, right? Then they see the incentives, right? So, I mean, it's like we all kind of say, right? We come for the like number go up, and then we stay for the hard money principles. So, but I don't want to get back to.
I like that. I like that. Yeah, and that's in a nutshell. That's me, right?
Yeah,
that's really well said. Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that. You know, hey, I mean, I might be doing this every now and then. You know what I'm saying? But I want to take a dive back into you though, because, you know, I think it is kind of interesting that you've moved from, you kind of described like the mining aspect of your career, right? That's kind of how you got into it. And now you're into Lightning wallets. So, you know, I guess you said you're still mining. So why the transition away, or, you know, why kind of, I guess moving this direction opposed to, you know, maybe something in the mining space?
So I'm still mining actively. I didn't let go of it, but the reason why I'm not as much into mining as I was like a year and a half ago is because the profits are way lower. The electricity goes up, profits are lower. But I did just buy a new machine a couple days ago. I'm really excited about it. S19 series, of course. No one should be buying anything less than an S. Well, I shouldn't tell people what to do, but if you want to make profits with Bitcoin mining, you can't be getting any machine less than an S19 if you want to make profits and a good ROI. So the fact that I'm working with a Lightning wallet, it's not mining based because Lightning is not on the blockchain. But I'm still doing both, and I still believe in both. I think it's important that if someone's going to be a passionate Bitcoiner, they should be really contributing to Bitcoin as a miner or node provider or something. I think that's important. So I wouldn't go as far to say that's like a duty that people should do, but if you want to call yourself a really passionate Bitcoin enthusiast, you should be running a node or a miner for sure. Definitely.
Yeah. So kind of
in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree with you too. I mean, but it is kind of interesting because it seems like, generally speaking, from what I understand, or from the people that I talk to, their journey, it either involves like starting with, I don't know, they were in some sort of energy field and that's kind of how they got into mining, or, they were in something and they got curious and then they just bought. But there's kind of like, there's not too many people that just kind of jumped into mining. So what about mining that kind of appealed to you? And why did you kind of, I guess, start there for your Bitcoin journey?
You were asking about mining and why did I jump into that? You're right. I jumped into that quicker than most other ventures because the passive income. It gave consistent passive income without me lifting a finger to get the income. So that's what made me really appreciate it and value it more.
Yeah, no, I understand that too. And it is unique, right? I mean, because, like you kind of said, right now, like mining isn't that profitable of a venture, but it seems like Lightning is pretty prevalent in Canada, right? I mean, people use it for space heaters. There's a lot of, innovation when it comes to using alternative energy sources when it comes to mining. So, I guess, because even though it was passive, did you kind of, I guess, crunch the numbers prior, or what, like, I guess, did you just kind of plug and play and then just decide to figure it out later? Like, how is that kind of, I guess, approached? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Cool.
Yeah. Hey. Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, sorry. Okay. Just about 15 seconds. Yeah.
All right.
No, I mean 15 seconons.
Oh, okay. I thought you said you needed 15 seconds.
No.
Yeah, but I was saying, like, I know you're up in Canada. A lot of people use like Bitcoin miners for space heaters, other things like that. There's a lot of innovation when it comes to, just overall, energy usage, whether it's hydro, a lot of alternative energy uses in Canada when it comes to mining. So, for you, it seems like you just kind of like plugged and played and then went from there. Did you crunch any numbers before, or what was the, like, I guess, overall thought, or did you just kind of, do a little research on Bitcoin and realize like, hey, this is a way to do it, get non-KYC, and that's kind of how you wanted to go about it?
Yeah, I did some research, started following some YouTubers who are really, really into mining, and I was learning from them. I did a lot of research into the profits. I found multiple different websites to compare the profits of each mining machine, and that's basically, it made sense to me at the time, and made sense to me at the time to get into it. And then I was like, oh wow, well, if I get 10 machines, then I'll make more than just 2 machines. Then I bought into a bunch of different ones. Yeah.
What was the conversation like with your energy provider? Did you get any? Did you raise any eyebrows when you were? Or what?
I have a horror story, man, about that. Yeah, I was in Calgary for a little bit, and the energy provider there at Max, they were giving me estimated readings on my meter, or on my electricity meter, for like a year. So I thought that I was getting, I thought I wasn't using that much electricity for a year, but their estimated readings were so wrong and so far off from what the actual reading is. I get stuck with this bill for thousands of dollars in December, just before Christmas time. Thousands of dollars that I had to pay because their estimated reading was so different from the actual energy usage I was reading. So annoying. So I ended up talking to a lawyer about it, seeing if I could get out of it, but I wasn't able to because in the terms and agreements, they say they do not take responsibility for an estimated reading being inaccurate. It's absolutely like ridiculous. So that was a bad story I had with that. I also had my miners set up in a commercial space, got into a big argument with the owners of that space as well. But you live, you learn. Right now, everything's good with my mining setups, but you live, you learn. And I did have, I had some run-ins with the electrical companies. Yes.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
teach
I
people.
can imagine so. I
What's
can
that?
imagine so, right? I mean, you probably got they probably came and cracked the whip because it seems like that's what a lot of electrical companies do, right? I mean, they don't want to send people out and go check every single meter. I'm sure, you know, especially in the wintertime in Canada, it's not a lot of fun to go in there and like check everybody's back of house or whatever, wherever they are, you know, to get those energy readings. So, you know, I can't even imagine that the guys out. You definitely put them to the test with all that, right? They're like, hey, it's usually, I don't know, X amount, and then you probably had them at 3 or 4 times. And
I was using all the electricity that my condo would allow, like almost like 95% or more. Like that's how much electricity I was using in my apartment with mining machines. The only other electricity I had was like a toaster and my choice, right? A toaster and then my heated water. I had like the water bottle, like the water thing that you plug in the wall and it heats up your water for you. And that would set the breaker off. So that's what my limit was with electricity. I used everything. Yeah, rewired my dishwasher. Like I unplugged my dishwasher and then plugged a miner into my dishwasher receptacle. My oven, unplugged my oven, and then plugged multiple miners into my oven receptacle. But you have to get a professional electrician to do that for you. You can't be doing that on your own. So
yeah. So how did you get away with that? What are you? Are you just a closet professional electrician or what, man? Like, did you just like get? You're like you seem like a jack of all trades here, man. You're like helping you know, push this lightning wallet. You're an electrician on the side, just rewiring your condo. Like, what do you do, man?
Yeah. No, I didn't actually do like the rewiring myself, but I I did a lot of research and I told the electrician what I wanted, and he was able to execute what I wanted within the electrical limits that the city of Calgary would allow. So that was kind of how it was. A lot of research though, a lot of trial and error. I had receptacles melt on me. I had plugs that I would put in the wall that would melt out of the wall because I messed some stuff up. I had multiple electrical devices that I plugged into a 240 volt outlet, and the motor of the electrical device would start smoking and melting from the inside out. No fires or anything, but because the way that the electrical rates work is they won't let you go farther than your limit, but you need to understand that you can't plug in a 110 volt machine into a 240 volt outlet, right? So, and yeah. So I've had a lot of trial and error, and I look back and I laugh at it because it's funny.
Yeah, I mean, but that's part of the journey, right? I mean, it's like I don't know. It's funny where Bitcoin takes you, right? I mean, you like I said, you're kind of like helping out a Lightning wallet, so I'm sure you're learning a little bit more about, you know, the chains and everything like that, the Lightning development, all that kind of stuff. But then you also had to be an electrician on the side over here when and figure out the ins and outs of miners, that kind of stuff. You know, did you try anything like, I guess, to prevent your miners from breaking down? Did you do any like immersion kind of techniques, or like, I don't know, did you just have the AC going full blast too, or during the winter time did you just open the windows and just let the cold air in Canada cool off the machines? Like, did you do anything where you kind of workshopped it to try to make sure that your machines would last a little longer?
Absolutely, I did. Yep, yeah. I bought multiple fans, like the big fans that are about 3 feet off the ground. You can only really buy those online. It was hard for me to find them in stores. So they're high RPM machine fans, like they make a noise like boom, like when they're going. So I bought a bunch of those, aimed them right at some of my machines because in the summertime they needed that. If in the summertime, if I didn't have those extra fans, then they would overheat and they would shut off. A lot of the new miners that they make today have those features based on my own experience. Seeing them, they shut themselves off when they get too hot. So that is a preventive measure. The fans and AC, No, no, didn't really need to mess with the AC too much. But I would aim them outside. I would have like you mentioned, like I would have my sliding door open, and I would have all the machines aiming because they blow air one way. They suck air in from the rear, blow it out front, and it's high RPM fans on the miners, and I'd have them blowing out. I would even have them sitting on a tilt up. Like I'd have them sit on a tilt up platform, so they'd blow up and out into out the window instead of them aiming straight, because then there's a little bit of wind drag on the step outside. So I had them aiming like that, like yeah.
Man, so you went through the ringer, man. You said you the trial and error. So I mean, how long? You said 2015, right? So you've been mining for like 8-ish years or so.
No, actually, no. I've only been mining since around 2021.
Okay.
Early, like January 2nd, 2021. Yeah.
Man, so you've been just doing all this stuff in like the past 2 years, huh?
Oh yeah, no, because I quit my day job. I was in construction management for a long time. Like I was a superintendent for tower construction for residential towers. So that was very, very good. I'm grateful for that whole experience. My relationship with my employers is excellent. They're calling me back, trying to get me to come back to work, which I understand because the labor shortage is a very real problem in Canada. I don't know what it's like today, but it was really, really bad the past like 5-6 years, right? We were always struggling to get guys. So I was doing that up until around spring. Was it spring? 2021, March, April, May-ish, around that area. And I transitioned out of the construction management industry. And that's what gave me all this free time for the rest of the year to study this full time. So that's how I was able to learn so much in such a short time, is because I had the time to learn. And I had a lot of money saved up and stuff like that, right? So I was able to support myself and buy a lot of machines, have passive income to survive on, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Man, it sounds like you just like, yeah, when you saw it, you just went all in, and I love it, man. I love it. So, but for let's go back to Coinos for, real quick before I let you go. So what do you see as like the future? Like, what is the goal of Coinos for the next, like, I guess, what is it? It's almost the end of June here. So the next like 6 months at the end of the year, what is the goal for you guys? Like, where are you guys trying to expand to and bring more, I guess, more lightning wallets to?
So our short-term goal is to just bring, we want to have tens of thousands of, let's say by the end of the year, we want over 1,000 businesses using us, which like even 2,000, 3,000, which is very realistic at the rate that we're going. And we just want to make our platform as easy as possible for anyone to get started with Bitcoin. And there is things that we're tweaking as the days go on. We want the users and the businesses to not hesitate to tell us about any issues they might find or improvements they might find. We have a very passionate community here in Vancouver, not just in Vancouver, but we have these really passionate communities around the world that message us in our Telegram group chat and also by email. We have a Coinos Telegram group chat with hundreds of people. And they give us suggestions. Hey, guys, we think this should happen. And then me and Adam will talk about it. We have a lot of our improvement proposals on our GitHub. And our GitHub links are on our homepage. Well, it's at the button to get to our GitHub is at the bottom of our homepage. So that's where people can put in improvement proposals. That's what's cool about GitHub. So we have everything on one list. And goal is to just be adopted by more and more businesses, a variety. We want to have a big variety of businesses too. We already have a pretty good variety, but we want much more, right, than what we have still, even though we have a decent variety.
Yeah, for sure. But you failed to mention about, Francis, you told me a little bit pre-show. So yeah, tell us about the story between the connection between Francis from Bull Bitcoin and Coinos.
Oh, absolutely. So Francis, the CEO of Bull Bitcoin, he likes Coinos. He's a fan of Coinos. He was using Coinos back in 2014, and he was using it for a while for his own storefronts and stuff like that. And he even showed me his code on GitHub, and he was forking. He actually forked his own version of Coinos because Coinos is open source. We are very transparent that way, right? We don't hide things like that. So Francis was bullish on Coinos, and then obviously I don't think he uses Coinos that much anymore because he has Bull Bitcoin. He's got his hands full with that. but that's as far as I know about the connection there we have with them. I was talking with Francis at the Toronto Bitcoin conference, and it was a really good experience. Good to get to know him a little bit. And yeah, it was great. I bought a couple Bull Bitcoin shirts. I think their branding's pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure. And they're doing great stuff. Yeah, I mean, the non-KYC options in Canada definitely seem pretty prime, and Bull Bitcoin's a big reason because of that. So awesome stuff. But Cole, I don't want to take too much more of your time, so I really appreciate you coming on here and squeezing me in and getting an interview in. So why don't you tell people what you got going on for the rest of the year and where they could find out more about Coinos?
That's great. Yeah, sounds good. So our link, our website is just coinos.io. That's COINOS.io. And our link hub is our link tree. So it's linktr.ee/coinos.io. That would bring you to our link hub with everything, all our social medias and everything on one page. But our homepage is just coinos.io. We also have a bounty program where we are awarding people in Vancouver 1 million sats if they onboard one of the types of businesses on our list of businesses that qualify for the bounty program. So we're working on that a lot. We're promoting that. A couple people in the community in Vancouver are really working towards that. And that's a big thing, which is coinos.io/bounties. And yeah, we're on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, just only looking to grow more and more and more. We're on Nostr as well. Our Nostr pub key is on our bio on our Twitter. Our favorite place to communicate and interact with people is Twitter, but all of our social media profiles are helping still.
Yeah, for sure. So I'll be sure to link all of those in the show notes as well. So everybody go check out Coinos. Go give them a follow and give Cole a shout. And whoever wins the bounty in Vancouver, feel free to just send me some of those sats. I mean, geez, man, I'll help get the word out, but I need a little kickback here, man. I need some of these cheap sats, huh?
Exactly.
Cole, thanks so much, man. We'll have to have you back on maybe at some point when you guys are maybe all over the country, all over the globe. Thanks so much, man.
Great. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very grateful for your time. Thank you so much.